Hello, and welcome back to another Smoke Signals synopsis where I summarize what stories can be found in our latest edition of the Smoke Signals newspaper. Today, we're looking at the May 1st, 2022 edition. You can read these full stories now at smokesignals.org. On the front page, you'll see we have events finally returning. The Memorial Day ceremony is returning May 30th at the West Valley Veterans Memorial. More details on that Memorial Day celebration can be found on page 6. On the bottom of the front page, we continue our Parenting from Prison series with an interview with Grand Ronde Tribal member Andrea Schneider. Schneider was paroled from Coffee Creek Correctional Facility April 2020, and she discusses her struggles with reconnecting with her children in that story. You can find that full story on page 7. The last story on the front page reports Grand Ronde Tribal member Lisa Watson has been appointed to serve as the new Office of Equity and Human Rights Director for the City of Portland. You can read more about Watson and that position on page 9. We have several pictures in this edition to check out. On the front page, you'll see pictures from the Tribal Housing Department's Easter egg hunt held Saturday, April 16th. You can see those photos of the Easter event on page 11. On page 2, we have photos from tribal members' attempt to install a temporary fishing platform at the Willamette Falls, as well as photos from Monday, April 18th, where tribal members and volunteers planted approximately 3,000 Wapato bulbs at Wapato Lake National Wildlife Refuge in Gaston, Oregon on page 8. Be sure to take a look at all those. An intertribal water healing ceremony was held Saturday, April 16th and hosted by the Klamath Tribe in Moore Park in southern Oregon. You can read that full story to see who attended from the Grand Ronde Tribe and what that ceremony entailed on page 3. Delayed repairs on Grand Ronde Road are finally back on the Polk County docket, and during the April 20th Tribal Council meeting, Council approved contributing $78,000 to help fund that road work. The full story explains the delays and other actions from that meeting can be found on page 5. President Joe Biden paid a visit to the Pacific Northwest last week, and Tribal Council Chairwoman Cheryl A. Kennedy had a brief visit with him on Thursday, April 21st. You can read Kennedy describe that interaction on page 6. Kennedy also testified virtually before the U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday, April 27th, to correct an error and inconsistency regarding 84 acres on the eastern boundary of the Grand Ronde Reservation. You can read details about that discrepancy on page 13. We'll be covering the inaugural Camas Festival at Linfield University in McMinnville next week with pictures and videos. You can find full details of that event on page 10. The Human Resources Department honored employees with another quarterly recognition of their years of service. You can read on page 12 first quarter employees who achieved 5 years working at Grand Ronde all the way up to a tribal member and employee who has worked here at Grand Ronde for 32 years. Tribal Council members Denise Harvey and Kathleen George have reported seeking re-election, while Jack Giffen Jr. has decided to not run again, meaning a new spot on council will open up this year. You can read more about the upcoming nomination in June on page 14. As we finish the paper, we have messages from royalty, a few other briefs, and walking on notices. If you'd like to read any of these stories for yourself, you can find them now in the PDF version of the paper at smokesignals.org. I'm Kamaya, the social media digital journalist for Smoke Signals.